Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of Monday Evening with Alex and Luke.
This is our weekly show that has been and will continue to be documenting our travels through every state, province, and territory in Canada and the United States as dictated by you on Twitter, Facebook, and our website, alexandluke.com.
You might have thought the trip was over and there'd be no more Monday evenings, but we had our trip back to Toronto this week to document, and to come we still have to go to Nunavut and Vermont as well.
And
Hawaii.
good.
So where did we travel this week?
We started off this week in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
And then we drove for a long time down to Sault Ste Marie.
And then we drove for a long time down to Wasaga Beach.
And then from there, it was a quick drive to Oakville.
And from there it was a quick drive to Toronto, where we come to you from now.
Our favorite city this week is Wasaga Beach.
And Wasaga Beach is the first city we visited on this whole trip, which is very, very weird to think about.
I know, I never imagined that we'd end up in the same place the day before we were returning home as we ended up the first day leaving our homes. That sounds really confusing.
Yeah, you got it. Wasaga Beach is a beach town a couple hours north of Toronto, Ontario. And there's a beach there that we've yet to see during its peak season.
I know, it's really, really popular in the summer. They have a lot of big events there, like wakeboarding events and volleyball events. And it's a really popular place for young people to go, but we have not seen it in the proper season. We've seen it in the spring and in the fall, and apparently we missed a great season this year.
Correct. But there's also a city called Collingwood right next door. I kind of grouped the two in my head.
Yeah.
So if you do want to go in the winter, Collingwood has some great ski hills and restaurants that you can go to.
Yeah, like the ski hill I went down on day one of alexandluke.com.
You didn't really go down it so much as fall down it. Yeah. Our favorite meal this week has ruined pancakes for me for the balance of my life.
Hoytos in Thunder Bay was recommended by a few people, and it was incredible. Do you want to explain to the people what we ate?
Finnish pancakes. That was the first time I ever ate Finnish pancakes, and they were so rich that I couldn't even finish my plate of Finnish pancakes.
I took one bite. They're thin layers. There's maybe 3 or 4 stacked. You put them all the layers in your mouth. I looked at you and I think I just had a profanity because I couldn't believe how good it was.
There was an influx of Finnish workers into Thunder Bay at some point in history, and they couldn't get a good Finnish meal for a good price. So that's why hoitos was invented, and it used to be cafeteria style, and now it's lovely, awesome style.
Yeah, now everybody just goes. It's kind of in the basement of this big center. It's amazing. I should have checked to see if they give out the recipe or they may give you a mix or something. I'll have to check it out online. Hoytos, Thunder Bay, worth the drive.
Seriously.
For favorite attraction this week, if I can't pick Hoytos again, then I'll have to say Lake Superior.
And more specifically, it has to be Old Woman Bay on Lake Superior.
So we're driving the long, long, long drive from Thunder Bay to Sault Ste Marie.
And constant wolf and moose lookout.
Yeah.
Did see a wolf.
It's true, we saw a wolf. Amazing.
Wolf.
I grew up around the Great Lakes, Lake Huron and Lake Ontario, and they're beautiful and I love them. They definitely hold a place in my heart, but I'd never seen Lake Superior before, and it was geographically different than it is around here. It wasn't as flat, and the drive was just, it goes along the lake, and it's so beautiful and remote, and the fishermen in Old Woman Bay catching rainbow trout, it was beautiful. We caught the sunset there too.
A lot of people recommend driving the California coast.
Yeah.
And not many people recommend driving from Sault Ste. Marie to Thunder Bay, Ontario, but it's an equally good, well, not equally, they're different, but it's good. And considering we saw the world's largest goose, Canada goose.
On the way. That's something California doesn't have.
Yeah, but it really strengthens how cool Lake Superior is, if it's cooler than a large goose.
I want to do a Great Lakes cruise now. So our first night out, we end up at the Saga Resort in Wasaga Beach. And here we are again on the last night of our road trip part of the trip. And we're in the Saga Resort again. It was amazing.
There's a kitchen there.
They've got everything you could want for a beach town.
And we can say now with confidence, after staying in tons of motels, that horrible motel in Lethbridge would probably be in the worst.
Yeah.
But this is on the very, very high end of motel, and I guess we didn't appreciate it as much at the start. We didn't unappreciate it.
No, but we just didn't know we didn't have something to kind of scale it against.
Exactly.
And it is the best that you can get for
yeah, clean.
beachside resort motel. And they have a jacuzzi. They got little cabins that you can stay in. Everything that you would want when you go for a trip to the beach.
Wasaga Beach Resort, Wasaga Beach, Ontario.
We love you.
Favorites of the week.
So this brings us to our favorite moment of the week, which was being on the Beach Radio 97.7 with Jeremy and Marianne. And this was something that we did on the very first few days of the trip, and we got to do again on our way back through.
So Jeremy and Marianne have been supporting us the whole time we've been on our trip. They've been calling us. We've called in to them countless times. It's actually probably countable. Probably like 6. And they've stayed interested in us, which is very, very nice. And I can't believe that we got to go back and host the show again with them.
We had a lot more to say this time around.
We did, but it was still too early. That was the earliest I woke up on the trip, followed closely by the last time we stayed there.
Yeah, I woke up earlier to see that sunrise in Atlantic City, but anyway, it was really cool to be back.
Yeah, it was nice.
The beach, 97.7, Wasaga.
Georgian Bay's light hits. I'll tell you what's not a light hit, this track by David Bazan called Hard to Be.
You've heard the story, you know how it goes. Once upon a garden, we were lovers with no clothes.
We're huge David Bazan fans. If you want to download the CD, you should.
Yeah, you definitely should. And go to a concert. If you can, go to one of his house concerts. He plays in people's houses. He's awesome.
Favorite song of the week?
For Thing Learned this week, I turn it to my partner, Luke.
Okay, there's a town in Ontario called Kenora. It's a town you may or may not have heard of. But what you haven't heard of is that Kenora at one point in history won the Stanley Cup. Are you kidding me? We drove by and there's a billboard that says Kenora won the Stanley Cup. And I'm like, how could this place win the Stanley Cup? They don't have a hockey team. But they did. And they were called the Kenora Thistles. And in 1907, they beat the Montreal Wanderers to win the Stanley Cup. Which, if you think about it, is really crazy. That they were an amateur team. At that point, amateur teams could enter to win the Stanley Cup.
And they did.
And they did. And they lost twice, actually, prior to that. Kenora Thistles, I'm going to try and get a jersey. And they're going to be my favorite throwback hockey team. But that's very interesting, if you're interested in hockey.
It is interesting. I just think that Kenora is a beautiful place.
Cool.
I'd like to go visit it again.
Great. I'd like to get in a time machine and go back and cheer on the log workers that were a part of the Thistles. It was all woodsmen, just woodsmen, amateur woodsmen.
That is it. Monday Evening with Alex and Luke, episode 29.
This week we're going to be in Toronto, and we're actually going to be able to show you Toronto, which we haven't been able to do yet, which is very, very exciting. We have some big announcements. If you've been following the site, you saw we unveiled our first hint that on December 31st we will be packing our bags and getting ready to leave Toronto once again.
Yeah, where will the wind take us this time?
Dijon. It's really a really exciting project, and we feel very fortunate that we're going to be able to do it.
And share it with everybody all over again.
I have just a little small feeling that you're going to love it. Internet. See you next week.
Alex and Luke.